This is my 93rd video on my work with OO gauge. See part 1 of this series for my reasons for getting into OO gauge when I already had a lot invested in working in N gauge, and I didn't really have space available for a large, fully operational OO gauge layout. Also see my lengthy series on my N gauge railway modelling for smaller and more complex scenery and smaller scale trains running. This part is a rolling stock video, a break from progress on the shelf layout, to see a very old model of a Stanier 8F fixed up and running. This is basically a case of the squeaky wheel gets the grease. I bought this loco on eBay UK because it looked especially interesting, and of course the 8F is right in the centre of what I model LMS operations in the 1930s. And when this loco arrived in the post, although it was wrapped in several layers of paper towel, bubble wrap and cardboard, there were still loose pieces that had broken off in shipping and that dropped out of the packaging as I unwrapped it. It also didn't really have a coupling that I could readily use, so it went straight from unwrapping onto the bench for repairs and adjustments. So here it is, jumping the queue and appearing in a video ahead of other quite exciting pieces of rolling stock that are waiting their turn. This is a Hornby 008F. But saying that is perhaps a bit misleading, as it has been extensively modified. I believe that by and large the chassis of both the loco and the tender are still largely as Hornby made them, although I'm not too sure about that. The couplings have been changed and the loco to tender connection has been modified. The model has also been repainted and renumbered and quite extensively detailed, including the addition of new handrails, a lamp, sprung buffers, vacuum pipes and front steps. Some of these details, however, didn't manage to stay attached for the trip from the UK to me in Canada. As you can see, 2 sets of steps and 1 vacuum pipe went adrift upon arrival. Here's a close-up of the detached items. Since the vacuum pipe on the back of the tender was still in place, clearly this vacuum pipe belonged on the front of the loco. I wasn't entirely sure about the steps at first, but a check of the pictures in the eBay listing showed that these were indeed previously attached as front steps on the loco. Here's the front of the loco where these items belong. You can see that an etched brass number plate has been attached to the smoke box door. I was a bit concerned about reattaching the front steps, as I thought they might obstruct the pony truck and stop the loco getting round curves. This, of course, is why front steps are often not included on models, as the tight curves used on model railways require more movement of front bogies and trucks than would be required in real life. Here's a view of the back of the loco. As you may see, the back vacuum pipe is still in place. Also, the only coupling is of the 3-link type. The pictures in the eBay listing weren't very clear on this. I had expected the model to arrive with a simplex coupling on the rear, which would undoubtedly have been how it was originally made. Here's the bottom of the model. You can clearly see the Hornby 00 and Made in England marks. I almost wonder if this isn't a modified 3-rail item that was originally 3-rail. I'm not sure. As a Hornby 00 item, this model is made entirely of metal, so it's extremely heavy, edging out my Wren 264 tank as the heaviest model engine I've encountered. I've not taken this model apart, but I certainly suspect that some rebuilding of the motor and drive gear has been done, as the motor drive works extremely well for such an old model. Note that the 2 centre sets of driving wheels on the loco and the centre set of wheels on the tender are without flanges, meaning that there are just 4 wheels on each loco and tender, with flanges to keep the model running on the rails. A close view of the bottom of the loco. You can see that brass sprung buffers have been fitted. You can also see how the pony truck is mounted, which seems to me a better system than that used on more recent Hornby 8Fs. The more recent system has proved quite problematical in my experience. You can see the remains of the fitting for the front simplex coupling on the pony truck, but the coupling has been removed, and a hook and 3-link coupling has been fitted to the front buffer beam. Here's the bottom of the tender. The drawbar between the loco and the tender is a brass item which has been fitted replacing the original and creating a considerably closer coupling between loco and tender, which worried me a little bit. Again, the simplex coupling has been removed from the back of the tender, although in this case the brass rivet that would have originally held it on and pivoted it still remains. As noted, there are no flanges on the centre wheels. Again, you can see the sprung buffers here, although they don't actually seem to be springing too well. The big blob of glue behind the buffer beam seems to be holding on the vacuum pipe. I didn't do that, but I wouldn't have thought that the person who carefully detailed the model would have done it either. As you may see, the only coupling is of a hook and 3-link type. I could have tried to use this, but I don't really have rolling stock set up to use this type of coupling. My first thought was to add a simplex coupling, but I couldn't see an easy way to fit one, so instead I used a Hornby tension lock coupling of the snap-on type, which I just superglued to the original simplex mounting plate with the snap jaws of the Hornby coupling round the brass rivet. I glued the front steps back on, and the front vacuum pipe. I was a bit concerned that the front steps would impede the movement of the pony truck too much, but they can always be removed again if necessary. Here's the way I glued the tension lock coupling onto the back of the tender. Perhaps not an ideal solution, but I certainly wanted to be able to hook this loco up to a train reliably. With the model the right way up again, the tension lock coupling looks pretty much as they do on newer models. The thin plastic arm that connects this coupling allows it some side-to-side motion, even when the mounting jaws are firmly fixed in place. Here's the front of the loco the right way up after refitting. And here from the other side. Someone obviously put quite a bit of work into improving this model. It's a trifle ironic that the detailing wasn't able to extend to the cab, as there basically is no cab, the space being occupied by the back of the motor. Okay, a bit of an addendum. I'd already basically finished this video, but I did a bit more research as I was curious about the origins of this model. Was it originally 2-rail or 3-rail? Was the motor original, and if so, what kind was it? So I dug around a bit into the history of Hornby 008Fs. Apparently this model was sold by Hornby in both 2-rail and 3-rail versions at the same time, specifically here in an advertisement from 1959, giving the model numbers for the two versions. I expect that the model that I have was this very one. And here's a picture of the bottom of an unmodified Hornby 002225. So I think the answer is that my model was modified from 3-rail to 2-rail in a way, but the adaptation was done by Hornby themselves, and the model was sold like this, ready to run on 2-rail. You can also see here the original loco to tender drawbar, and the original rear simplex coupling held on and pivoted by the brass rivet. There is no coupling on the front, so perhaps one was never fitted. So far as I can tell, Hornby only sold this model in BR livery, so mine was probably adapted from that. Same engine, 8109, just back in its LMS livery. By the way, there were so many 8Fs built that it can be difficult to establish details of a particular engine. About all I can say about 8109 is that it was built at the LMS Crew Works and went into service in early 1939. It was withdrawn in 1966 and scrapped. Finally, here's a Hornby ad from the same period, around the end of the 1950s, illustrating the motor fitted to these models, which it would clearly appear is still the motor in the model that I have. These were the original Hornby Ringfield motors, and everything I've read indicates that they were of very high quality. I got the 8F onto the rolling road for initial testing of the mechanism. The eBay listing said that it was a good runner, and this proved to be so. So now let's proceed to some running video, first on the rolling road and then on my Hornby layout. Let's just see if we can run this 8F, this old Hornby 8F, but adapted on the rolling road. Give him a little bit more power than that. Sorry, that's me jerking around. It's not really his fault. Not bad for an old engine. And someone's obviously taken quite a bit of time over this, fixing it up. On the other hand, you can still see the motor in the cab. The motor juts right back into the cab. It is not atypical of these really old Hornby engines. You can see some wires under there as well. I'm not sure. Let's stop him and let's try and go backwards. I may have to take those front steps off again because I'm not sure whether it would be able to get round corners with a front pony truck with those front steps on. They'd fallen off in shipping anyway, but I've stuck them back on for now. They're just brass steps, they're not the originals. That's not that fast, but it goes faster than I would have expected. I wonder if someone's changed the motor in him, because he goes faster than I would have expected, really, for an old engine. We'll see. It'll be easy to tell when I actually get him onto the this is a kind of old Bachmann controller, so it's not very, can't really tell so easily with it. It'll be easier to tell when I get him onto the layout with the Morley controller and see how he goes. It's kind of ironic. He's got glazing in the windows of the cab, but then you can actually see the motor through the cab. Well, he goes in any case, and I was told this was advertised as an excellent runner. I bought it on eBay, and the listing said it was an excellent runner, and it does look as if it runs well. So we'll have to get it on the layout and see how it actually works on the layout. Okay, I've got this old Hornby 008F with modifications on the track. I have to say, when I was first putting it on the track, I was very dubious about whether I was going to get it to run. Because it's very close coupled, someone's modified it, and it's very close coupled between the tender and the engine, and I couldn't even manage to rail it on a third radius curve. So I sort of thought if I railed it on a straight, it was just going to jam when it got to a third radius curve. However, as you can see, it is in fact getting round the third radius curves, but it's got very little to spare, because the side of the tender is virtually hitting the engine as it goes by. I'm operating the remote via the camera, the zoom via the camera itself rather than via the remote here, because I've only got two hands, and I'm using the other hand to operate the handheld control for the loco. But he is, in fact, as you can see, managing the third radius circuit on my Hornby layout fine. And if we stop him here, I don't know whether you can see, but here's, well, I can't see. Let's take him a little bit further forward. Oh, yes, you can just about see. I can now just about see. Here's, it's not there because it's not focusing. I'm trying to make it focus for you. His pony truck is still railed properly, and it is getting round the third radius curves without hitting those front steps. I was a bit dubious about that, you know. I thought I might have to take those front steps off again, but take him round once more. Sorry about the jerky zoom. I just cannot do this zoom gently using the control on the camera. Okay. Look at the remote, the handheld thing there, because it has no detente on the middle. Okay, so let's get him hooked up to a train then and see what he looks like pulling a train if we can. Okay, I've got the 8F, the old Hornby 008F, hooked up to the train that I was using before for the simplex coupled locos, although of course I had to move a wagon round. I've moved a, really hard to make that zoom go at all smooth. I've moved a converter wagon to the front because I put a tension lock coupling on the back of him. Okay, now he struggles a bit to pull this train. Oh, and it's already come uncoupled. Got a coupling problem. Okay, I had a coupling problem at the back of the train here, nothing to do with the engine. It's all a bit fiddly. I put a tension lock coupling on the back of the engine. He has some trouble pulling this train. Let's see if we can get it going. Famous last words. Oh yeah, there we go. Ooh. But I don't think I've got that wagon railed right now. However, this is the wagon I just added. There we go. It's a converter wagon I added at the back to attach the... Okay, let's try again. I don't hear anybody rattling now, so hopefully we got everybody railed right at least. He does struggle a bit to pull this because it's a heavy train, especially around the corners. It's a heavy train, old wagons coupled mainly with simplex couplings. He's an old heavy loco, mind you, but he's struggling a bit to pull it, but he's managing. Ah, famous last words. He's stopped there. You don't know. Dirty place on the track, I think, and he's not got much spare. He's not got much power to spare, so a dirty place on the track can defeat him fairly easily. He's got no tender pickups, of course. Old engine like this, the tenders just about managed to stribble past that dirty place on the track. I'll clean it afterwards. So he is running, albeit... Well, he's not running badly, but he struggles a bit with his train. I'm going to stop him there for now. We'll stop him, I think. Well, maybe we'll go around one more time, because I stopped him further on than I wanted to. He does struggle a bit to pull this train. He goes a lot faster once he gets onto the straight. Okay, let's stop him there for now. Very nice looking engine. Whoops. Sorry, I just cannot. The zoom. It's really hard work trying to persuade the zoom on this camera to work using the little toggle switch on the camera. Nice looking engine though, as you can see. Nice looking engine. Whoops. And frankly, he works as well or better than the newer 8Fs I have, really. Well, especially the very new one. The newest one works well. I just cannot operate this zoom. Oh well, there you go. We'll just finish up with a few passing shots of the train, all being well.